Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today we have some pretty exciting Helldivers 2 news to talk about, as explosions are going to be back on the menu for several reasons that I cannot wait for. So first and foremost, if you missed it, we officially have the Orbital Napalm Barrage unlocked, and this is the most fun stratagem in the game, especially if you don't mind killing your fellow Helldivers at times, because the explosion range on this is absolutely bananas. The fire damage is crazy, it is insane, but it is absolutely hilarious. You're going to see I am surprised the first time I use it by how far away it does hit, how much area it covers, and how much damage it ultimately does. So definitely be careful if you're going to use this thing. I'm glad we have this now, and I hope future stratagems follow this route, where not all of them have to be insanely powerful, but they have to provide a bit more of the wow factor that we have previously lost with the game, and I absolutely think the Orbital Napalm Barrage does that. Go ahead and unlock it right now. It's very cheap, and it's ready to use immediately, which is awesome, and I can't wait to use this more often and really perfect the flame build that I was looking forward to utilizing previously before they nerfed the flamethrower. Now that is back on the menu as well with the next update, so it does feel like I can rain down hellfire on my enemies to my heart's content. Next, there are a couple more buffs that I didn't talk about in my last video, where I went over the new war bond and some of the buffs coming as they have continued to drop additional updates. So first off, as I mentioned, explosions are back on the menu. As the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb, explosion radius is now increased to match the visuals better. Just sit back and enjoy the show. This is fantastic for me, as I absolutely want to see these massive explosions completely decimate my enemies. You see it in the gameplay a little bit. I'm using the Napalm Barrage, but I'm also using the 500 kg, and while it is very strong, the radius feels misleading when you see the explosion versus how many enemies it's ultimately able to take down. So I'm really thankful that we're getting the bigger, more powerful version of the bomb. And I absolutely think it'll be one of the more used stratagems in the game going forward. We're also getting a buff, or actually a reversion, to the arc thrower, as now we have a moderate stun effect is added that builds up on its targets, and the range gets an increase from 35 to 55. Durable damage will also be increased from 50 to 100, and it now jumps additional time. So maybe the arc thrower will be a bit closer to what it once was, and it will be viable going forward, and you can really lean into builds. This is one thing that has been a little bit frustrating for me, is it felt like I want to make a fire-based build, I want to make an arc, lightning essentially based build, and none of that seemed possible when they were consistently nerfing things down. Now, I mentioned that they're buffing the Eruptor, which is great. I hope we get other buffs to some of the primary weapons as well, but also they are nerfing some of the enemies, which is going to be interesting, because Shrapnel will no longer one-shot Helldivers, which is funny, but Rocket Devastators are getting a bit of a nerf, which I think is going to be pretty nice overall. I don't think it's absolutely insane, but I do think it is going to be one of those that I think will be useful for sure. So we got the Eruptor, we got the Breaker, we got a lot of these buffs that I think are really changing the way we're looking to use some of these weapons and stratagems, alongside buffs to like the flamethrower and stuff like that. And I think that's fantastic. And I hope in the future they let us feel powerful, and now in order to challenge us, they add these additional difficulties, and so our stuff feels powerful, but you still have to be careful. You still have to play smart if you are playing on the hardest difficulties in the game, whereas the easier difficulties, you can kind of feel like you are a powerful Helldiver who has access to all these super advanced sci-fi weaponry, where you can absolutely rain destruction on the enemies of Super Earth. And I think that's something that I was not as frustrated with the nerfs as a lot of people, but I felt like eventually it got to the point where the power fantasy for people who want it just wasn't there. Everything felt underwhelming, and we are finally getting back to a point where I think the game feels good. I think all of this is hopefully to set up for the eventual arrival of the Illuminate. Once that happens, that's when I see players really jumping back into the game, but it will be in a good foundation because of all these buffs and changes they are making. So this is setting up the game for hopefully a successful long-term future. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like the video as always, comment, subscribe. My name is JoPa. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button as I mentioned. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.